All right. Hello, everybody. This is our first T3 of the 2026-27 school year, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Our topic today, if I can share my screen here, and we are talking seventh grade grad plans. Really exciting topic, highly requested topic. We'll talk about that as we go, but this was a popular one. So we are excited for everybody to talk about it. Okay. And here we go. Can everyone see my screen? Oh, I've got a few more people joining too. So we'll pop in
I
and
can see your screen. Yes.
okay, good. Thank you. Get everybody going. And again, as a reminder, we're recording the meeting. We will have that available to everybody. And we will also have everything that we share in the meeting. We have our PD resource hub. We'll link everything in there, usually about a day or two after, depends on when we can get all those resources uploaded, but it's usually within 24 hours we get all of those things posted so you can see all those things. All right. So you can see my screen and off we go. So first of all, an overview of how a T3 works. We will talk context for about 5 minutes just to set everybody's expectations of why we're talking about this topic. Then we will get to the content and share either some new resources or we will share research, something interesting or really important about the topic. And then the last 30 minutes, we will talk and connect. And that time we turn off the recording. We don't put that part on camera. That is just an opportunity for those in the room to discuss, to network. We also know that we are often in islands working in this area of career exploration and career coaching at our schools. It's often one or two people that are doing the bulk of this work at their district. And so we want to make sure that we provide time for you to share ideas, talk about what you're doing at your school district, and really have this little space for you to connect during your school day that you often don't have. So I'm going to set my little visual timer here to make sure I stay on that track. So we are staying on our time because we know, again, it's still during the school day for a lot of you. So we want to make sure we're honoring that. Okay, so context. Why is this important to schools? How does it support what's next for students? And why is this topic timely? First of all, context. Why is it important to schools? Well, according to Indiana Code IC 2034 1.5. And here it is if you want to read it. It's a tiny print, and that was on purpose, but there is a link here, and I'll share the slide deck so you can click and link if you really want to read all of it and understand all of it. Where can I find this information? It's all there. But the key is getting a parent to sign off and say, I understand my student's plan. They have a plan for graduation. A guidance counselor or someone at school has talked to my student about this, and we have a plan and we're thinking about my child's graduation. And we do have some sort of signature and an affirmation of that plan. So we want to make sure that's kind of the gist of it. Why does it support what's next for students? Well, we have some research here from the DeBruce Foundation, and if you have not checked this out, I do have it linked down here below. Again, I want to make sure we're sharing all these resources with you. But the DeBruce Foundation out of Kansas City has done a lot of research around employment empowerment. And so they do a study every year. I think it's 3 or 4 years in now. And how they define that is people who are really empowered in their employment, they have a really powerful network of strength. And so they have a strong professional network. And also they are really career literate. And so that's that career literacy that we're really digging into here. People have a future career vision. They're aware of their skills and interests. They have job search skills, the ability to communicate, and they've explored lots of career pathways. And so, really, we are setting up students to do that career literacy piece. So, that's really what we're going to do here this launch, that seventh grade grad plan. So, they are setting that career vision really early. And it sounds early, we know. We're going to talk more about that. But why is that important? Because the DeBruce Foundation found that when people are employment empowered, they are 20% or 26% more likely to have a current job. They're, 34% more likely to be currently employed. They are going to make about $44,000 more a year. And so that's really important. So I shared that research with some students this summer, and they really latched on to that. Like not just $44,000 a year, but $44,000 more a year. Yeah, so it really is important. And so this research is really something that we have dug into. So it's important. We really want them to have that vision. And so also in our vision at next here, this is the first step, right? We're launching their pathway. We're launching them up through and with the end goal of that senior exit interview, that CDM when they're seniors. But they have to really start in seventh grade. So every year they're just taking a look at their plan and they're tweaking it. They're taking a look and they're tweaking it. And so it doesn't become this overwhelming thing that by junior year, they're starting from scratch and they have no idea what they're doing. So you start in seventh grade, you check into some things, they explore a little bit, and every year they're just reevaluating that plan and seeing if it still makes sense for them. So why is this topic timely? When we talk to schools, prior to 2026, when that accountability rule came out, schools reported that eighth grade is when they were really doing those graduation plans. However, when it's now switched to seventh grade, a lot of people didn't have a plan in place. And also, many schools also shared with us that they plan to do those conversations and introduce it in seventh grade at a back to school night or those fall parent nights. So the timeliness comes from the fact that you requested it. You said, hey, we really want to talk about this early. We want to start having these conversations soon so we can make sure we get all of those signatures and we make sure we get all the parents to sign off because they know it might be a bit of a change for schools, for parents, for students. So they want to get ahead of it and start planning early. So we want to be here to give you resources and get going on that now. So just as a reminder, we have our website, discoveryournext.org. So make sure we'll have resources there. We have our monthly newsletter, so lots of trainings coming up. If you're not receiving that newsletter, make sure you get on our list. You can contact us and chat with us later about that. And that next resource hub, that is where all the resources will be posted after the session. I will get the YouTube link up and anything we share today will be there. The slides that I'm showing right now will be posted there as well, so you can access all of these resources. Okay, now into the content. Oh, and I have 1 minute to spare, so I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes, make sure we stick to that time. So I am going to invite my colleague Sarah to join me a little bit here in the conversation because she's really been working a lot on the seventh grade grad plan and she started out with a survey. So Sarah, if you want to jump in here and tell a little bit about the survey that you did to schools to find out their needs around that seventh grade graduation plan and the work that they're doing in middle schools.
Sure. So we had opportunity really to start talking to some middle schools, leaders who were really starting to think about how do we start having those conversations earlier. And, the perspective I always bring is around one that says, um, I'm a parent. I was sharing earlier with the team that I had my students back to school night last night, and my youngest is a senior. And so I was sitting at this back to school night as somebody who doesn't come to this work from an educational background. And I was thinking how much I would have appreciated this level of context. The reality is when I first heard about them shifting these requirements to seventh grade, I was thinking, boy, when my boys were in seventh grade, the best I could have hoped for is if the schools could have helped me convince them to wear deodorant, right? Like you would have said to me in seventh grade, we're going to be talking about graduation. I would have thought you were nuts. And I think that that's what a lot of parents are going to be thinking, right? And so we wanted to really find out from the schools, what can we do to support you to make this feel seamless to parents and to families and to make it really meet the moment. So it's not just a box that you're checking, but it's really meaningful content to meet families where they are. And one of the things we were really concerned about is this idea around families just dismissing it because it does feel so early that they might not meet the requirements with much I don't know, seriousness as what it deserves. And so really have been kind of digging into that. The survey was the first step of understanding what is the current reality in the schools? What are you doing currently that works? Are you having back to school nights? Are you engaging with parents in a meaningful way? And then how can we support that? And then finding out practical needs. Are there tools or resources that we could support you along the way? So that's really the survey. We got some good feedback from some of our middle schools. And then we've also been meeting with schools in person to get some of that feedback and finding out what are you using for a grad plan currently? How are you hoping to capture this data? And then using that to build some of the tools that we're hoping to maybe give you a little sneak peek of today and then roll out to some of the pilot offerings that we're hoping to offer this school year.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. So some resources that we can share. We had Region 8, we hosted Steve Baker from IASP. And so I do have his resources that I've linked here. So we have the slide deck that was used. And so I can go ahead and you can check that out. They also provided us with an FAQ. And so again, some really great resources that you can take a look at. And then they shared in that meeting, I know, two different grad plan samples that they were going to start using. And again, they met those requirements from the Indiana code. So I'll show one of those and I want to make sure. Okay, yep, you can see that. So here's Hamilton Heights. Again, this was one that was shown as kind of an exemplar. So again, it meets all those requirements. So you would have your students fill out the 4 years. It's got all the boxes to check. So I'll have Sarah talk a little bit about too. This is some of the things that she looked at when she was creating the next plan. And then we had one from Noblesville. Looks very different. So this one stuck a little bit more to just those questions that were, again, in accordance with the code that follows all of the things that needed to be done. Again, just filling out some of those boxes, having students initial. Again, the really important part. Again, my career interests, a goal I'd like to achieve in school. Am I going to attend college, military, workforce? But getting that parent signature and the student and making sure the parents and the students are having those conversations. And then having that in a setting where the guidance counselor or somebody from the school is giving them some information. So having said that, we've got these resources that came from reputable sources. Then we kind of went ahead and thought, how can we make this accessible to parents, like Sarah was saying, from that parent hat that she had on, and thinking about the feedback we got from schools and the settings in which it was going to happen, those parent nights typically. Got some results here that Sarah kind of talked about. And actually, I think I'm going to, Sarah, we've got two different things going on here. I'm not sure which one you want to talk about first, but if I turn this over to you, are you going to, I don't know, Sarah, if you want to talk about the grad plan first, maybe?
Um, yeah, let's start. We'll start with the grad plan and then I'll share a little bit about how we might
Okay.
share that. So,
I think I'm going to stop sharing the screen then. And if
oh, perfect.
you want to take over, maybe? Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can't share my grad plan.
Okay.
I'm new to Zoom sharing too, but perfect. Got it. You guys can see the grad plan.
There it is. Yep.
Okay. So what I did was I kind of looked at this from the parent student perspective and said, when I looked at the idea of talking through this from the lens of the educator Indiana code, I think both from a parent perspective and a student perspective, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like we don't always understand all of the lingo, particularly some of the lingo that starts with even the the use of post-secondary, and we're talking around enrollment, employment, even some of those words, I think for some of our families are tough to navigate. And so what I did was I went through and I said, how do we translate this into the language of next? So we started by saying, how do we talk about this as a plan for students starting in seventh grade, normalizing the idea that this is a pathway, there's no wrong answers. And the idea is that we want for students to think about this as the first step in a journey. So they're going to start by using the 4 questions that we use on the Discover Your Next website, where they're going to just think about, who am I? Where am I going to be going? How do I get there? And what's my next step? Also taking into consideration that students can say, I'm in the driver's seat in this conversation, right? The adults in their lives, whether that be their parents, teachers, counselors, all of the people that are supporting their journey are going to just be their co-pilots. They're there to help them navigate this process, but it's up to the students where they end up going. So I want to also point out that we said this isn't a one-time decision, it's a process. So again, I think when we send forms home to parents that are like, this is state code, you're signing this paper, right? It gives them a little anxiety of like, I'm having to decide what my student is doing with their life in 7th grade. Feels like a little anxiety ridden, but instead we're like, oh, we're going to revisit this. This is just the start to their plan. I feel like that part of the conversation feels more like we're uncovering for their students what they might be good at, rather than we're signing a paper that says they're going to be enlisting in the military, right? Like that feels a much different conversation is being had than we're navigating a conversation with them. So we're previewing it much like Amy's roadmap showed you, of just saying, hey, we're starting in 7th grade. We're going to be revisiting this in 8th grade, 9th grade, all the way through, and then developing this process. Also, I think it's normalizing the idea that at the end, hey, you're going to graduate, and guess what? You might revisit this process. So sharing with students that we're building for them a process that they can revisit throughout their lives, where if they find after graduation something shifts in their life where they need to revisit their career path, they know what to do. They learned this process and they can revisit it over and over again. So the rest of the worksheet is basically those 4 steps, but using 7th grade language to engage with the student, right? What are some things that you're good at school, maybe at home, in a sport, in a hobby, at friends? What comes naturally to you, right? So giving the students that opportunity to think through that discovery phase. This is where they could embed the agilities if you're an agility school. So using that language here. We would also then have little spaces where we're using some language to engage the schools around, hey, this is, if you're using Job Ready 360, if you have it in the middle school, plug this in here. Now the schools can have this embedded, so you're tracking results over time for students. Again, we're going to just keep floating through those questions, define, see how we're not using the language that feels so enroll, enlist. Oh, and I know you can see this as a draft because I'm already seeing a mistake. Enroll, employ, enlist, right? But we're talking about, we're going to just keep learning. We're going to start working. We're going to serve our communities. So the language feels a little more soft. It's giving that student the moment to think about, oh, do I want to enroll? Oh, I like school. I want to keep learning new things. It doesn't feel like we're using the heavier post-secondary language that I've seen used in so many of the worksheets. For some people, I tease a lot. I always say my husband has a master's degree, and I don't know that I've ever heard him use language like post-secondary. I feel like it's very education focused. And so pulling away from some of that language and instead using language that feels a little more approachable, I think allows for our families to feel a little bit more in tune with the process. Additionally, again, this is very student facing. Again, we're asking them, is there somebody in your life that you could talk to about this road that you've shown some interest in that might help you to explore it? And then again, develop, how am I going to get there? Hey, do you know that you could talk to your counselor? You could maybe do some job shadowing. Here's some free resources for you. So again, just engaging those students where they are. And then finally, this is that discuss. Now, is there some questions that you still have? We're still asking those same graduation plan and promises that the law requires. I know it, I know that my high school career matters. I know that I need to keep showing up, right? These actually I pulled from Angola's grad plan. So, having these embedded, we're still getting those same commitments that are required by the state law, but it feels a little more nuanced where it's meeting that student where they are. Afterwards, this is where these first 7 pages are the pages that would be required. But then after that, your school can customize it, right? If you want to include what the high school diploma requires, getting into the nitty gritty of what the course credits would be, absolutely can do that. You could actually include more data around the readiness seals. We're still kind of working through some of that. Actually, even having those personalized grad plans where you could go into each and every one of those years of schooling and making sure that you're meeting schools where they are around letting students plan out the grad plan year by year. Absolutely, you can provide that for schools or for your school, plugging that in and allowing that to be customizable. But again, just making sure that schools know this is the opportunity for them to make this uh, customizable, but a little more family friendly, if that makes sense. So I'm going to pause here and kind of get your feedback and say, how does this land versus what you have seen and versus what the other grad plans have looked like in the past? Or questions, I guess.
Think if you gave me this as a parent and I was with my child at an event where we're talking about this and we got to go through this together and have conversations and then take it home and continue to work on it, I would feel very supported and understand what it is my child is actually going to be doing for the next few years. So I think you've done an excellent job translating all of this into something that is accessible and parent and student friendly. So thank you for all your work.
Well, that you, it was like I led you to that perfect answer, and I didn't mean to, Shauna, but thank you because that is exactly what we're hopeful is going to happen because that is the other thing that we're piloting. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because uh, the other thing we're excited about is that we have the opportunity to roll out with some pilot schools, and actually everyone on here is, is a pilot school, but for those of you watching later, we are going to be, thankfully, we've got a partnership with the DeBruce Foundation in Region 8 to pilot what we're calling a next in a box parent night for some middle schools. And so we've already identified, because of the career coaching grant and those schools that we already have a great relationship and partnership with existing, we're going to pilot in some middle schools a program where we're going to introduce this at a parent night. So basically, what it will be is a turnkey program that will be available to schools where we'll roll this out in a middle school and all of your middle schools, where basically we'll walk through this in a very engaging way with families that are there at the back to school or the parent night. We're going to call it a next in a box back to school night, explaining to parents the value of this work, explaining to them how to have these discussions with their students, and actually giving them resources to take home, such as discussion cards. Our goal is to have a way for parents to take their agilities assessment, for students, if they're 13 years or older, to take the agilities work profiler, so that the students are going to be able to have a meaningful conversation with their parents about their agilities. The parents will have the opportunity to talk about their agilities findings as well. And so it's really creating a moment of dialogue and conversation versus having this pressure or stress that I think can come from thinking about, oh my gosh, how in the world would I ever get started having a conversation with a seventh grader about their career? We're going to give them the ways and give them the tools. And so we're going to make it really fun. We're going to set the stage for this going forward. And our hope is that if this works, and that the real lean for us is we're going to require and hope, and that's why we've picked so many great pilot schools, is to say, we want you to provide us with the feedback, positive and critical, because our goal is to say, if this works, why not do it in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade? And so we're supporting the school teams to say, we know that these parent nights are a lot of work. We know they can be a heavy lift. And oftentimes the turnout for these events are low. How can we support you to make them more engaging, to provide all of the resources so that it doesn't fall on the school teams, and so that the content is meaningful enough that parents feel like they just have to attend. We're also working on ways to create some virtual content so that those families that can't attend can actually provide a way for them to get their resources afterwards. So all of those things to say, our heart is in providing meaningful resources. And then also we'll be working with our colleague Benny to figure out a way to capture what the state needs. And I imagine it will be a little bit of Benny and a little bit of Barb to say, how do we capture that for the schools and help them to make sure that they're meeting the accountability standards needed to capture that all of the schools and all of the families have met those requirements, so that it's both and, right? We're meaningful content and we're meeting the accountability requirements. And I think that's what makes this work so meaningful. So did I hit everything? I'm looking at my team. I captured everything. Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Questions from the folks that are in attendance or feedback?
I don't think we're good. Okay, I'm gonna go back to sharing the slide deck real quick here. I think I can, because I did have that little teaser. I think if you can, there we go. Yeah, for the family career night, next in a box. I have to laugh because we did call it next in a box, and you're probably thinking, what box? But the idea being again that it's this that you have the materials, right, to put on a really fun night, and that there are some materials that come in a box that you can kind of just unbox it and it's ready to go. So we're working on that part of it, but the DeBruce Foundation partnering with us is really helpful. So using their resources and is really going to make it awesome. So we're excited about that part of it. So coming soon, but it's getting close. So thank you, Sarah. And Sarah's going to stick around and we'll chat more once we turn the recording off. But so that's really the content piece of our presentation today. But we ask this question every time as well. What topic, speakers, or content do you need to meet your goals this school year? So if you have any more of those, please let us know. And we are always happy we can bump a topic if we need to. We do have a plan for the whole year, but that does not mean that we can't change our mind because it's timely. And if it's not timely anymore, and if something else is more important, we can change. So that's what we want to make sure this is for you. And if we need to change, we will do that. And we're going to move into our connect section because we believe the answer is in the room, even if it's a virtual room. So it'll be a judgment-free zone. We're here to support you. We're going to turn the recording off. So we will put questions and answers in the next resource hub anonymously if there's something that comes out of that section of the interaction that we feel like could be helpful to other schools that aren't going to be able to join here in person. But we want to make sure that we let you know that's kind of how that section will go. And we do have a QR code here. So those of you watching on YouTube later, you can pause here, give us some feedback, let us know if this format is working for you or if it's not, if you have any suggestions for us. And then finally, I'm going to make sure I move my mouse so you guys can see this piece here. What's next? Here are the next things coming up for us. We have our next agilities training for PCC teachers. So we ran that twice, once this summer. It was really it was well attended, but we had some requests for encore. So we're going to be doing that again August 25th. We also have our next collaboration meeting on August 28th. There's still time to sign up for that. That's when we invite all of our districts. We have 27 now, maybe 28, because we talked about it. Anyway, lots of different school districts and schools to come together. And so we love, again, bringing everybody together, chatting about what you're doing and sharing ideas and resources. And then the next T3 is September 15th. We have a special guest on that one. That is James Cashman from CHE. He's going to be talking everything FAFSA, completion tips, and he has some other great things to share with us from CHE. So you may remember James. We knew him. Actually, Sarah and I met him when he was with Three Rivers, but now he is working for CHE. And so he is great about understanding funding for college and all things money-wise, right? So he's going to be chatting with us and sharing information there and resources. So excited to have him with us. And then finally, and I don't have Benny on here because I did not get the updated slide, but I will have that for the next T3. But just reminder of our team at Region 8, if you need any of us, please reach out. We are accessible and we love to help and support you, and we are here for you. So if you need Cindy or Holly, Barb, Sarah, and Amy, we are available. So please reach out. you'll be hearing from us. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you for everybody. Please check out the resource hub for any of the things that we shared today. It should all be there for you. Thank you.